The Ant and the Grasshopper. In a lush, sun-drenched meadow, where wildflowers swayed in the gentle breeze and the air buzzed with the sounds of nature, there lived two very different creatures, an industrious ant and a carefree grasshopper. The meadow was their home, a place of abundance and beauty, but was also a place where the changing seasons brought both joy and hardship. The story of the ant and the grasshopper is one of preparation, responsibility, and the consequences of choices. The warm days of summer. The summer sun shone brightly over the meadow, casting a golden glow on the tall grasses and the vibrant flowers. The ant, a small but determined creature, was busy from dawn till dusk. She scurried back and forth, carrying grains of wheat, seeds, and bits of food to her underground nest. Her tiny legs moved tirelessly, and her antennae twitched as she focused on her task. The ant knew that summer was a time of plenty, but it wouldn't last forever. Winter would come, and she needed to be ready. Not far away, the grasshopper spent his days in a very different manner. He was a lively, cheerful fellow with long, springy legs and a love for music. While the ant worked, the grasshopper hopped from flower to flower, basking in the sunshine and playing his fiddle. His melodies filled the air, a joyful soundtrack to the summer days. He laughed and danced, enjoying every moment of the warm weather. One afternoon, as the ant was hauling a large crumb of bread back to her nest, the grasshopper spotted her. He hopped over, his fiddle tucked under his arm, and called out, "Hello there, little ant. Why do you work so hard on such a beautiful day? Come, join me. Let's sing and dance together." The ant paused, wiping her brow with a tiny foreleg. "I can't, grasshopper," she replied. "Winter is coming, and I must store food for my colony. If I don't work now, we'll have nothing to eat when the cold arrives." The grasshopper chuckled, waving a dismissive leg. "Winter? That's ages away. Look around you. The sun is shining, the flowers are blooming, and the world is full of life. There's plenty of time to prepare later. Come, enjoy the moment with me." But the ant shook her head. "You should think about the future, grasshopper. The seasons change quickly, and winter will be here before you know it." With that, the ant returned to her work, leaving the grasshopper to his music. The changing seasons. As the weeks passed, the days grew shorter, and the air began to cool. The once vibrant meadows started to fade, the flowers wilting and the grasses turning brown. The ant continued her work, her nest now filled with a plentiful supply of food. She felt a sense of pride and security, knowing that her colony would be well fed during the winter months. The grasshopper, however, had not heeded the ant's warning. He had spent the entire summer singing, dancing, and enjoying himself, without a thought for the future. Now, as the first frost settled over the meadow, he realized with a sinking feeling that he had no food stored and no shelter to protect him from the cold. One chilly evening, as the wind whistled through the bare branches of the trees, the grasshopper found himself shivering and hungry. He thought of the ant and her well-stocked nest. Reluctantly, he hopped over to her home and knocked on the entrance. "Who's there?" called the ant from inside. "It's me, the grasshopper," he replied, his voice trembling. "Please, may I come in? I'm cold and hungry, and I have nowhere to go." The ant opened the door and peered out at the grasshopper. She felt a pang of sympathy for him, but she also remembered how he had ignored her advice all summer long. "Grasshopper," she said gently, "I warned you about the coming winter. I told you to prepare, but you chose to spend your time singing and dancing instead. Now you must face the consequences of your actions." The grasshopper hung his head in shame. "I know," he said quietly. "I was foolish. I thought there would always be time to prepare later. But now I see that I was wrong. Please, can you help me?" The ant thought for a moment. She was kind-hearted, but she also knew that her first responsibility was to her colony. "I'm sorry, grasshopper," she said. "I can't give you food from our stores. It belongs to the colony, and we need it to survive the winter. But I can offer you shelter for the night. Tomorrow, you'll have to find your own way." The grasshopper nodded, grateful for even this small kindness. He spent the night in the ant's nest, warm and safe, but the next morning he knew he had to leave. As he stepped out into the cold, he vowed to himself that he would never again be so careless. The lesson learned. The winter was long and harsh, and the grasshopper struggled to survive. He searched for scraps of food and sought shelter wherever he could find it. It was a difficult time, but it was also a time of reflection. The grasshopper realized the importance of planning for the future and the value of hard work. When spring finally arrived, the meadow came alive once more. The grasshopper, now wiser and more responsible, began to prepare for the next winter. He still sang and danced, but he also made time to gather food and build a shelter. He even visited the ant to thank her for the lesson she had taught him. The ant smiled when she saw the grasshopper working. "I'm glad you've learned the importance of preparation," she said. "Life is about balance, enjoying the present while also planning for the future." The grasshopper nodded. "You're right, Ant. I'll never forget the lesson you taught me. From now on, I'll work hard and be ready for whatever comes." And so, the ant and the grasshopper lived side by side in the meadow, each learning from the other. The ant reminded the grasshopper of the value of responsibility, while the grasshopper reminded the ant to take time to enjoy the beauty of life. Together, they showed that wisdom lies in finding a balance between work and play, preparation and joy. The moral of the story. The tale of the ant and the grasshopper teaches us the importance of planning for the future and the consequences of neglecting our responsibilities. It reminds us that while it's important to enjoy the present, we must also prepare for the challenges that lie ahead. By finding a balance between work and play, we can build a life that is both fulfilling and secure.